A bug just flew and hit me in the mouth. That was uncomfortable and weird. Something I wish I'd known earlier is that marketing your music often means you need to share some things that are meaningful, but it doesn't mean you need to share your entire life with the internet. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I grew up loving emotional, raw, intimate songs that just felt like the artist was just kind of sharing their whole guts with me, and I loved it so much. And so when I started writing songs, I would put everything out there. And sometimes I mean everything. And then some people heard those songs, and that kind of quickly snowballed into a little career. And before you knew it, a lot of people started hearing those songs. And then strangers would come up to me after concerts, and they would start talking about the things that I had put in those songs. And they would ask me questions about the things in my life that I didn't want them to know. And I would be frustrated about that and sometimes mad or weirded out. But eventually I had to realize that it wasn't their fault. It was mine, because I'm the one that told them. I put it in that song. Slowly, I learned the hard way that boundaries are a really good thing for a creative life. Boundaries are not a sexy word for a musician, for an artist. We like to think outside of the box. We like to put our heart on our sleeve, and we want to feel everything and say what we want. Yes, and also we want to be healthy human beings, and part of being healthy is having boundaries, and is knowing that there are some things for out there and there are some things for in here. And I didn't do that very well when I was starting out in my career. And at first, my stories were mostly about me. And so, those awkward interactions that I had with people who were coming up to me about my songs, they were about the things that I was feeling and I was thinking. They were about, my doubts about my faith, or they were about just growing up and feeling lonely or stuff like that. And okay, I can deal with that. But then as you grow, often our lives get bigger, and our lives involve other lives and other people's stories. And some of the most beautiful art in history is when somebody writes about somebody else, novels and songs and movies. And there's just some incredible work where people are writing about people that they love, people that they've lost, people that they're longing for. And I'm not saying by any stretch that we shouldn't do that. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to write about someone, you should make sure that person feels honored by that, if you want to stay in a relationship with that person. And when I say honored, I don't mean that they feel okay about you using their story or their name. I don't mean that you say, hey, I asked them and they seemed fine with it. Because often we can seem fine with something because we don't want to make something awkward or weird, but we're not fine with it. Again, these are things that I wish I had known earlier. These are things I've learned the hard way. There are some songs I wish I could go and rewrite. But there are also many songs that I'm super proud of and that I know people feel honored by. And so when I say honored, I mean that is that person glad that their name or their likeness is in that song. And if somebody else references it, they're like, yeah, that song's about me. That song's about me. Isn't that cool? And again, that's to be a healthy person. I know some of the great songs in the world are about unhealthy people and unhealthy relationships. I know that. I'm aware of that. I'm not talking about making Fleetwood Mac's Rumors here. Yeah, that's a great record. None of us want their lives, right? I want you to be healthy and make great art, not unhealthy and make great art. Also, there's something to say about time and place. I'm a dad, and I love being a dad. I've got 3 daughters, and it's just one of my favorite things in the world. And I write often about being a father and about my relationship with my girls. And there's one song in particular it's honestly one of my favorite songs I've ever written. And it's kind of a blessing for my girls, sort of for after I pass away, and sort of my hopes and wishes for them in the future. And it's a sweet song, and it's a song that I'm glad I've written and I'm glad is out there. And I don't regret writing it or putting it on a record at all. But I do have a regret. If I sing that song in a concert and they are there, everyone in the room who knows that they're there will watch them to see how they are reacting to their father singing that song. That puts them in a terrible position. And that is very unkind of me. That is me not having good boundaries for my children. And I made that mistake once. And it is a mistake I will not make again. Am I glad I wrote that song? Absolutely. Am I glad that my children have that song from me? Absolutely. Will I play it in concerts for the rest of my life? Absolutely. Will I play it when they're in the room? Not unless they come up to me and ask me to play it. So time and place matters. But here's what's so wonderful about having boundaries. Like, one of my friends said something to me recently that I thought was really profound. He said, we can write from our scars, but not our wounds. And what I take from that is like, we can write from the places where like we've been healed or we are healing, but maybe not where we're actively bleeding, like that we can share the things that we've gone through. We can share the things that we've learned. We can share deep pain and deep sorrow and also deep joy and healing and all these things. And we can put our emotion and our angst and we can put our turmoil and all the things that we're feeling, our passion into this stuff. And we should. And those moments of like, where we're just pouring it all into it. That's what creates this great art, just the soup of all those feelings and all those memories and all our hopes and all that stuff. We actually can do that better when we know that we are doing it in a way that we're safe and we're not putting ourselves in jeopardy. We're not putting the people we love in jeopardy. It's those boundaries that actually let us give ourselves fully to the moment. It lets you as an artist be fully present, and it lets your audience feel safe and entering into that moment with you. Another friend has said something that I thought was really great. He said, your audience doesn't need to be your therapist. That's great too. It's this kind of the same idea of you can share with them the things that you've gone through, but maybe not the thing that you're like going through that exact day always. Because the audience, if somebody bought a ticket and they're there that night for a good time, it's like, hey, they don't necessarily need to work through all your stuff that night. But they might be really encouraged and helped by the things that you have gone through and by you sharing honestly about the things that you've been through. Like, you can still be super honest and super open with the parts of your story in your life that you feel comfortable sharing. And just like if you come into my house, you are so welcome to come into my living room and my kitchen, but maybe not my bedroom. Where are the rooms where you're welcome, and where are the rooms where you're like, hey, that's not for you. This is not your home. And so when you're creating, how do you honor yourself and your safety and your friends and family and their safety and the people who are listening and their safety? And if you can create those healthy boundaries and honor all those people, you actually have the ability to go wild and to just create with absolute and total abandon and freedom and be as sad as you want and as joyful as you want and as reckless and as wild and as just you can go crazy because you have the boundaries and knowing that you're going to stay out of the bedroom because you're keeping it in the living room. You, a year later, will thank you, and everyone around you will thank you later that day. Trust me. Hope this is helpful for you. Wish I could have watched this 20 years ago, but hey, this is how we learn. You guys are awesome. Thanks for watching. You got this. Now go do something awesome.